Write every day down. Write every day down. Thank God for Matthew, and thank God for Moses. Thank God for Adam and Eve. And thank God for people who tell the whole story. God, give us the courage we need to write every day down. 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 Sing that with me. Write every day down. Write every day. Write every day down. 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 Oh, write every day down. Write every day down. So this friend of mine I just met him actually last year. I was in Guernsey, in the Isle of Guernsey, off of France, and met him for the first time, and then we went, and he had a dream to have us on the Isle of Wight, and we played in the yacht club, and they packed it out with people all over England came down, and we played in the yacht club at the Isle of Wight. And the first night we were there, they owned this bed and breakfast that overlooks the harbor there, and we're sitting at the table, and we asked him to tell us a sailing story because we know he sails. He says, well, when I was 21 years old, I left home. I got saved in the United States. I left England, got saved in the United States, and I was learning to be a sailor, and all I had was this recommendation letter from this friend of mine from England, and in my hand, in my pocket or something, in a bag. And I found myself in Hawaii. And it was in Hawaii that I met this lone sailor who was an older man, and he built his own boat. This boat now is like famous. This is 30 some odd years ago. This boat now is famous in yacht books and everything. And this lone sailor, his old man, he loved to sail alone. He was kind of an old codger. He didn't like to sail with other people. And evidently, sailors know this. When you get out on the seas, one of the reasons some people like that is because people get crazy. People don't trust other sailors, especially people that don't know, because things get crazy, especially if you get stuck. And he told me this. He said, you know that nobody sails the Atlantic, Jason, to do it safely? I said, what do you mean? He said, nobody sails across the Atlantic to do it safely. I said, really? He said, no real sailor sails across the Atlantic to do it safely. Sailors always sail to bring it to the edge where you don't know if you're going to make it. That's the fun of sailing. You push it to the limit, just all the way to the edge, and that's a great sail, and then you make it. It's the way it always is every time I've ever done it. You never know when the storm's going to come up, Anyway, when he was younger, though, he's over there in Hawaii, and he finds this sailor, and somebody says, if you really want to learn how to sail, if you could get that guy to let you sail with him, it'd be awesome. But he doesn't let anybody sail with him. So he walks up to this guy one day, and he says, I want to sail with you. I want to be your helping hand. I want to sail with you. And he's on a voyage to like Australia, I think. Right, guys? Australia? Is that right? He says, well, if you want to sail with me, he says, I don't sail with anybody, he says to him. It's not going to happen. He yells at the guy kind of in an old codger kind of way and says, you know. And he says, well, look I've got this letter from this man that I've known my whole life in England. And he's an awesome man. Will you read this letter of recommendation before you tell me no for sure? So the guy opens up the letter. He looks at the letter. And it's unbelievable to me. He says, this is the only man, this guy that recommended this kid is the only man that this old man writes, like personally wrote letters to. This guy, he doesn't know this guy at all. He just pulls out his recommendation letter, gives it to this old man that doesn't travel with anybody because doesn't trust him. But the only person he's in a relationship with is this guy back in England that is the only person that he even writes letters to and stays in contact with. So he says, because of this recommendation, you can sail with me. So this young boy gets on this boat and they set sail to Australia. And in the middle of their voyage, they hit a storm so strong that the waves are 70 feet plus waves and swells. Now, when he's telling us this story at his bed and breakfast, he's sitting at the table and he starts to shake. And literally when he tells this story, the Holy Spirit comes on him, on his remembrance so much, and he begins to shake with fear because, and he starts weeping uncontrollably when he tells the story. It's unbelievable how real it is to this guy still to this day. He says, you guys, we were literally going down waves backwards. He said, you don't even know, no hurricane you've ever been in, nobody's ever been in anything that sounds like the screeching, screaming of the power of the ocean when waves are that high. He said, it screams so loud you're just running away because you want to get away from it. And so we're all like, what happened? Then halfway through it, he keeps, I wish you could have been there. I wish we had it on video. We just weren't quick enough with our cameras. And he's weeping, he's crying, and he's shuddering. He's like, and so we'd run down into the cabin, and finally, eventually, I got away from the noise is so bad, it just starts driving you crazy. Screaming wind. And we're flying down these waves backwards, and they're just towering. 70 feet. That isn't 70 feet. And so he finally gets this solace, and he's down in the belly of the ship, and he's laying down, and they're just going up and down. And he finally falls asleep, and he's awakened to the old man tying things to him. He wakes up, and he knows that people go loopy, sailing. He doesn't know what's going on. And he wakes up, and this old man is tying instruments to his arms. And he says, and tying ropes to his legs. And he says, you got to go down under the boat, and you got to take the rudder off the ship, or we're going to die. Imagine, just maybe it's